5, 4, 3, 2, 1, liftoff. Welcome on our choice spaceship. We will visit Planet Shawishi to inspire. Unganisha Kutenda, where we connect to act. Then Sipa New Year to flourish. And Kesenangan to learn about pleasure. Join us on our journey towards the youth Niverse.
Good morning, good evening, and good day to you all. Welcome and thank you for joining us on our journey. My name is Linette and I will be your host live from the Choice office here in Amsterdam. This show is organized by Choice for Youth and Sexuality, an ambitious and bold youth-led organization that advocates for the sexual and reproductive health and rights of young people worldwide. Our space expedition takes us to the Universe, a safe space where we as young people can talk freely. Choice supports young people to meaningfully participate, to voice and claim their rights, enabling them and you to become leaders and change makers in our communities. All young people have the power to make decisions about their sexual reproductive love lives. Today is about connecting us all from all over the world. During this hour, we will talk with inspiring people from different planets and about youth, pleasure, and much more. This is super excited. We want to celebrate you, the young people Choice works with, all over the world, and remember that despite being far apart, we're all connected. But first things first, we're facing challenging times. Some of us might even be in lockdown today. We've seen quite some negative news lately. This is why we wish to share with you the positive Choice newsflash from your countries. What positive changes have happened the last year? We've asked some of our local reporters to run their news. Let's have a look.
Over the years, adolescent mothers are denied the opportunity to further their education once they get pregnant. So when they get pregnant, they are not able to go to school again. But with the help of the Ghana Education Service, there's now a policy which allows them to stay in schoolhouse pregnant and also bring them back to school after delivery. And this has given them the opportunity to have access to good and quality education, and they now have a much brighter future because they are able to educate themselves through junior high school, senior high school, and even tertiary. And that has been very beneficial, especially during this COVID-19 era.
After 17 years of advocacy for the enactment of the Access to Information Law, the law was finally gazetted in September 2020. Citizens have now the right to access information in the custody of public bodies and the private entities that are contracted by the government of Malawi. And authorization of this act enables young people and also Malawians to seek, receive, and impart information with legal backing and with ease.
I am glad to share with you that last year, Youth Advocate Ghana held the 3rd African Youth SDG Summit here in Ghana. The summit is the largest youth gathering on the continent of Africa that connects young people to learn about the Sustainable Development Goals and empower them to actively contribute to its implementation, monitoring, and accountability processes. Thank you.
Reporting from Indonesia, Ajibol Jabar for Choice Connected Week 2021. The new policy was announced by the Director General of Abolition and Civil Registration of the Ministry of Home Affairs, Zudan Arif Fakrullah, on April 23, 2021. Now, transgender people without an identity card in Indonesia can make an ID card at the nearest civil registry office without the need for a family card and birth certificate. These two conditions have been a barrier for many transgender people who have separated from their families, either because they were expelled or ran away from home. Although the conditions are simplified, this new policy does not necessarily recognize the new identity of transgender people. The name and gender listed are the data according to the birth identity on the birth certificate. However, this policy is still useful. When it comes to access to documents, this will definitely help transference for getting a better public services, such as healthcare, working fields, and transportation.
This is the first of its kind adolescent health clinic in eastern region of Uganda in Mbale. It's the state-of-the-art adolescent health clinic, and we want to make it a center of excellence. And as a result, as of today, we have had almost over 500 young people coming in to seek services, including safe abortion services, post-abortion care, deliveries, antenatal care, family planning, treatment of STIs and STDs, even cancer screening, both cervical and breast cancer, and also general healthcare services that very many young people are coming in to get. And also importantly is that we have a very active and vibrant youth hub, which is like a safe space, a dynamic safe space for young people. And also last year during the COVID-19 pandemic, we were also concerned about the high cases of sexual and gender-based violence. And as a result, we started our SUBI helpline. And SUBI helpline is a 24/7 youth-to-youth mobile service that young people call through from wherever part of the country that they are, and then we're able to provide them counseling on, like GBV, SRHR, related issues, mental health and others. But then also importantly, we are able to refer them to services. We have a database that has over 180 health facilities that provide post-rape care services, family planning services, antenatal care services, mental health and others. So for me, that was part of last year, though it had its own downfalls, many downfalls, but we're able to push through. Thank you. Bye.
The government of Nepal has developed the Safe Motherhood and Reproductive Health Regulation 2019 and the Guideline 2020 for the effective implementation of Right to Safe Motherhood and Reproductive Health Act, which was enacted in 2018 to ensure the reproductive health and rights of women and girls. During the 6th periodic CEDAW reporting, CEDAW committee has recommended government of Nepal to decriminalize the abortion. Likewise, during the 3rd cycle of the UPR, government of Nepal has accepted the recommendation of decriminalizing the abortion, which will ensure that women and girls are not incarcerated for seeking the safe abortion services. BBC Nepal will continue to advocate for the effective implementation of safe abortion services.
During the past couple of decades, we weren't allowed to work on any advocacy and right-based related issues. But the past year, the new civil society law allows us to work on all issues related to advocacy and rights-based. Because we helped prepare the youth engagement guideline for the Ethiopian Federal Ministry of Health, we were successful enough to create a platform where young people come together and voice their issues and sit with policymakers to bring some change. And since 2019, we've hosted it twice, and there are hopes of hosting it every year, annually for the coming years.
June 23, 2020, Malawi held fresh presidential elections, which were won by an opposition candidate. The elections had been sanctioned by the Supreme Court of Malawi after it found that the previous election, which was held in May 2020, was fraudulent. This was the first time in Malawi's history that the court had annulled a presidential election. Also, Malawi operationalized the Access to Information Act of 2017. The act empowers Malawians, including young people, to access information from public officials. The law will allow young people not only to access information held by public authorities, but also to more fully participate in public life.
Le 10 janvier 2020, son Excellence Macky Sall, le président de la République du Sénégal, a officiellement promulgué la loi numéro 2020-05 criminalisant le viol et la pédophilie à l'occasion d'un dialogue au palais présidentiel. Par présence de toutes les parties prenantes, œuvrant pour mettre fin aux violences basées sur les genres, notamment les associations de la société civile et les agents des Nations Unies. La promulgation a été collectivement magnifiée aussi bien au Sénégal que par la communauté internationale. Chacun de nous doit être un leader et parler des violences faites aux femmes et aux filles.
In Association Marocaine de Planification Familiale, we worked on the sensitization and awareness of migrant refugees, especially Syrians, for the abolition of child marriage in the eastern region of Morocco. And did you know that in a ceremony organized by the Ministry of Health and with the support of the World Health Organization, Morocco signed the World Health Organization recommendations on self-care. Morocco is the first country in the African and Arab region to adopt the World Health Organization recommendation on self-care for sexual and reproductive health.
Last year, AMRA celebrated the launch of the open-source Youth in Action Advocacy curriculum, which unlocked accessibility of the policy advocacy course to youth advocates across the world. Kenya has now been able to administer an impressive 5.3 million doses across the country for free.
So inspiring to see all this news. Now let's welcome the inspiring Jannemiek. Jannemiek has been working with Choice since 2016, and this year in April she became the new executive director. Hello Jannemiek.
Hi.
Welcome. Thank you for being with us today.
Well, it's so nice to be here. Thank you.
And what do you think of the newsflash? So cool, right?
Yeah, it's super cool. It's amazing to start like your morning, your week with so much good news from all the countries, and also so inspiring to see all the young people from all the different countries. And well, this is only the start of the week, so
And how is it for you to be like the new executive director of such an organization? I mean, you're very young.
Yes.
How is that for you?
Yeah, no, it's definitely, well, I would say a dream coming true to be able to do this job for Choice. I mean, I think Choice is very special in its kind, just like a bunch of all young people working for young people's rights, all super motivated, and we work towards a joint cause, and that really connects us, I feel.
Yeah, and can you maybe tell a bit more of what you do and what Choice does?
Yes, so Choice is a youth-led organization. So as I said, we're all young people, and we stand for improving young people's sexual and reproductive health and rights, or SRHR, as we tend to abbreviate it. We do this by international lobby and advocacy. So we have young people together also with young people from our partner organizations going to New York, to Geneva to get young people's rights into those international agreements, which is super important. And next to that, we work together with our local partners in the countries that we will see a lot of this week, so that they can also work on these topics on the ground. And we really do that together.
Yeah, that's super exciting. That's super exciting. And what motivated you actually to start working on SRHR?
Yeah, so for me, it started during my studies. I was doing my master's in international development studies. And it's a studies where you talk about a lot of topics, but a lot of them are also very theoretical. It's a lot about inequalities in the world, economics, etc. And I found it all very interesting. But SRHR was the first thing that really touched me personally as well, because I think it's so important for how you feel, how happy you are, like what your day looks like, to, you know, have those things recognized and to be okay and to make decisions about your own body. It's so vital.
And can you tell us maybe a bit more how you started in the field?
Yeah, so I think, indeed, it started during my studies. So I decided that this was the topic I wanted to work on. So I did an internship with Simavi, at their partner in Ghana, where I studied how young people participated in the social accountability structures it was then at the local health center. So how they could improve services for young people, so to say, and also to Uganda to study youth participation in the CSE program, and then started working at Choice in 2016, right after my studies, first as a program coordinator, so I also saw some familiar faces in the video, which was really nice to see, and worked for 4 years together with our local partners on meaningful youth participation, especially. Yeah.
That's so nice. So you've been here already for almost 5 years.
Yes.
In this beautiful office where we're live right now. That's so cool. And what's the one thing you want to tell young people who advocate for SRHR?
I think it sounds cringy, but you're not alone. This is really a topic that touches young people all over the world, and that's also what we're really trying to do with this week, connect those young people. But It might seem like a hard struggle. I think we also saw the past couple of years conservative voices getting stronger. There's a lot of opposition. But in the end, there's also a lot of people like us that stands for young people's rights.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's nice. And can you maybe summarize it in one sentence if you want to tell young people one thing? Can you maybe say it in one?
In one sentence. We always say you're so young, you're already here, but it doesn't matter. Young people really matter equally, and your voice matters.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jannemiek. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Well, now it's time for music. We have another special guest in the studio right now, singer and songwriter Nikolai. He's Amsterdam-based, and most of his songs are about love and the pleasurable things in life. So, Nikolai, welcome.
Hey, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah,
so,
let me just get the guitar.
Maybe you can tell us a bit about what your songs are about.
Of course, yeah, sure. Do you hear me? Do you have to talk into the mic? So I guess most songs are about love, as you say. I mean, sometimes you write sad songs, although even the sad songs are sometimes about love.
Yeah.
So I guess that's definitely an inspiration, and then just the things that you encounter and your reflections on it. I guess that's
And you write everything yourself?
I do. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what is the song about what you're going to perform right now?
Well, this song right now is I guess it's about just a young couple being in love, and the person, the person singing, doubting whether he should follow this or if he should hold back, But in the end, he just cannot resist, this feeling of love, and so he gives into it in the end.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, we can't wait to hear it.
All right.
Well,
that's my cue, I think.
Yeah.
All righty. Thank you so much. So it's called "Can't Get You Out of My Head." Here we go. Out of my head, the look in her eyes and the things she says make me a young man all over again. The way you make me feel when we're holding hands. A young girl, I can't get out of my head. The look in her eyes and the things she says make me a young man all over again. The way you make me feel when we're holding hands. I can picture her eyes, free as a dove, said she'd never been in trouble or even in love. And each time I see her face, my heart just seems to melt away. Yes, I can picture her eyes now, free as a dove, said she'd never been in trouble or even in love. And each time I see her face, my heart just seems to melt away. My friends think I'm crazy for even talking to you, but I guess that's just one of those things that love will make you do. 'Cause she's so cute and pretty and with eyes sparkling with light. They say you should be the wiser man and just do what people say is right. She's a young girl, I can't get out of my head. The look in her eyes and the things she says make me a young man all over again. The way you make me feel when we're holding hands. A young girl, I can't get out of my head. The look in her eyes and the things she says make me a young man all over again. The way you make me feel when we're holding hands. Oh yeah, I can picture her eyes free as a dove, said she'd never been in trouble or even in love. Each time I see her face, I just seem to melt away. Yes, I can picture her eyes now, free as a dove, said she'd never been in trouble or even in love. And each time I see her face, my worries seem to fade away. And the promise in her eyes made me realize I could never let her go. And all the things that you told me, that make me love her so. She She might be pretty and cute and with eyes full of sparkling light. And I might be a hopeless romantic baby, but I could never see us apart. 'Cause she's a young girl, I can't get out of my head. The look in her eyes and the things she says make me a young man all over again. The way you make me feel when we're holding hands. Just a young girl, I can't get out of my head. The look in her eyes and the things she says make me a young man all over again. The way you make me feel when we're holding hands. Oh chérie, dès que je t'ai vu ici, je savais tout de suite que je voulais partager ma vie avec toi. Alors viens avec moi chérie. Et on a roulé, c'est tout ce que j'ai fait. Ça ne m'ennuie pas, tant que je vous vois. Je veux te voir chérie, allez viens avec moi. Oh.
Wow, Nikolai, what a great song. Beautiful.
Thank you so
I can't
much.
get her out of her head. Performed by Nikolai. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
What was the French sentence you were singing?
Oh, so the French sentence, because I heard that there's quite a few, or I saw actually during the stream that everything was subtitled in French. So there must be a French audience here.
Yes,
so
for
I was
sure.
kind of declaring my love to the girl in French and saying that as soon as I saw her, I knew that I needed to share my life with her, and let's go away together. That's basically.
Wow, beautiful. Well, thank you so much. I
you
can't
so
get her
much.
out of her head, performed by Nikolai.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. Wow, what a great song about love. Well, let's talk about something else. Do you really know your body? And why is consent essential? Do you know what pleasure is and why it's important? Well, we have two powerful ladies that will gladly answer these questions with much knowledge and love. Let's talk about this with Feminist Futures Champions Sekulu and Anugya. We are waiting for them in a Zoom call, so it might take a little while. Sekulu and Anugya are live from India and Nepal, so we might see them in a very short amount of time. Hi, I can see you. Can you hear me? Sekulu, Anugya?
Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So good to see you. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
We're
How
so
is
happy
it?
to be here.
How are you doing?
Oh, we're enjoying. We're just dancing to the song.
You heard the song. That's great. Yeah, it was a beautiful song, right? Nikolai?
Super great. Yeah.
So both of you, thank you for being here. Anugya, can you tell us a bit about your work?
Am I audible?
Sekulu, let's start with you.
Yes, of course. Am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear you. Perfect. I can hear you
Okay.
perfectly.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sekulu. You can call me Seku. And we are Feminist Futures India. Our work here in India, we focus on sexual and reproductive health and rights issues of youth in India. Particularly right now, our campaign, which is called Body Festival, we're working to address how lack or absence of comprehensive sexuality education is affecting the way young people experience and understand consent and bodily autonomy. So as we recognize this gap, we are also consulting with youth about what they feel we could do to address these issues and to bridge that gap so that young people are given access to their sexual and reproductive health.
Yeah, and Sekulu, maybe can you tell us a bit more about consent and why it's so important?
For sure, consent is everything we need right now, especially, and I think it's universal when we talk about consent. It's very vital. When we're talking about consent, it's as simple as how is your interaction with a little girl or a little boy that you see in the street? Do you just randomly go and caress them, or do you ask for their permission? So this is a question we actually asked a lot of people. In our group discussions, we asked youths, what is consent to you? Or what do you mean when we say consent, or what does it mean to them? And a lot of them say it means permission, it means privacy, it means accessibility, and giving that option, or rather the choice, or rather the autonomy to be able to decide if someone can do something to you or not. So I think when we say consent, a lot of young people will empathize when we say that this conversation is almost absent in a lot of spaces, and it has been the reason why a lot of issues have been arising.
Yeah. Can you also tell us a bit more about what comprehensive sexuality education is?
For sure. Comprehensive sexuality education is a holistic curriculum to foster, or rather to impart knowledge around sexuality. It's as basic as menstruation or puberty, and then it goes on to sexuality, gender, pleasure, as well as everything, consent, bodily autonomy, everything that's under the sky about our bodies. And when we say CSE, it's also very important because it also addresses the issues of pleasure, because most of our conversations around sexuality is we have a risk-based approach to it, which is why, again, redefining CSE on that term becomes very important.
And how can comprehensive sexuality education foster safe places for youth and for young people?
Right. So CSE, like I mentioned, it's a holistic approach to understanding sexuality. So then when we impart this curriculum, young people are empowered with knowledge about your own bodies, and also with information about how to be sensitive towards certain issues, or how we can respect each other. So when we discuss about all of this, CSE becomes such an important tool for us to foster safe spaces within our own community as well as outside of our own communities.
Yeah. And how does bodily autonomy, related to self-love?
Bodily autonomy is, for me, it's like it's the same as self-love, because of the silence around because of the silence around our bodies, there is so much stigma and shame and guilt around our bodies. So what happens when we start having these discussions, and we start giving young people the right to decide what happens to their own bodies, and also empowering them with the choices that they have. So then their experience with their body is not shame or guilt, but rather we bridge that gap and we say, let's teach ourselves about our own bodies so that we can begin to love our bodies and take it from there.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I was also wondering, what is your age, actually? You have so much knowledge, so maybe you can tell the viewers.
Right. I'm 23 years old.
Sorry?
I'm 23 years old.
Yes, 23. And how do you, because maybe you can tell you from your own experience, is it, hi, Anugya? Anugya's
back.
Hi, I'm so sorry for my internet.
No, that's no problem. Thank you for being with us again. Sekulu, go on.
Oh, sorry, what was the question?
Sorry, I was wondering, how is your experience, being a 23-year-old, and how do you start these conversations, for example, in your own environment, with your friends, your family? How is that for you?
Right. For me, my relationship with SRHR started only after I joined college, because of the conservatives hometown that I grew up in. This conversation is absent, and most of it was risk-based. I remember witnessing my own peers, get pregnant at the age of 16 and being so alarmed. And then I moved to the city and I ended at college, and I was interning in this organization that works on SRHR. And that's when I began to realize about how so much of our own rights were put away from us, or rather we were denied our right to our own bodies. So my journey started from there. It was such a personal experience, initially of me being so curious about this topic because of how, I never heard about it. And suddenly I have so much information about my body. So it was like, oh my gosh, I want to know so much more. This is so exciting. Yeah. And then recognizing that this message cannot stop from me, but it has to go beyond that. It started with me talking to my friends about what was their first sex experiences, were they informed about the choices that they could make with regards to their own contraceptive options, or rather, did their partner respect their boundaries? Conversations like that, and then taking it forward through our advocacy projects.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing this personal experience with us.
Of course.
And Anugya, thank you. And you're back. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Yes, perfect. So maybe you can tell us a bit about your work.
Sure. So basically, I'm working with Choice in our project Feminist Futures, and I'm re-leading the project here in Nepal. So our Feminist Futures project in Nepal, we're working with pleasure activism. And basically what that means is we advocate for issues regarding pleasure. So what in Feminist Futures Nepal, what we believe in is every youth in Nepal should have the resources and the tools to explore their sexuality, pleasure, desires, and also have the tools to learn more about it. And with Feminist Futures Nepal and pleasure activism on social media, we're doing our social media advocacy project, where basically we try to create this safe space around topics that are really tabooed in our society. So talking about our sexualities, pleasure, masturbation, the orgasm gap. So these are some of the topics that we're talking about, and that's what we're doing with Feminist Futures Nepal.
Yeah, thank you. And can you maybe tell us, what is pleasure? What do you define as pleasure, and how do you speak about it in Nepal?
Sure. I think that's the thing about pleasure, right? There's no universal definition for it. What pleasure might look for me might not look the same for you. But oftentimes, like in our society, the definition of pleasure that we're given is very monolithic, which basically means most of the times the dominant narrative around it is very cis-het male-centric, because that's how the default is seen, right? And what this does is it often emphasizes more on penetrative sex as a form of pleasure. And this is very marginalizing to individuals who don't see pleasure in the same way, because it also marginalizes different types and forms of pleasures, especially for queer folks. So pleasure is just not sexual pleasure, right? It can look beyond sexual activities as well. We actually asked youths of Nepal how they defined pleasure, and the answers that we got were amazing. So there were youths who said how they define pleasure as maybe cuddling, holding hands, having a conversation, or even just spending time with a loved one. And one of the most beautiful answers that we received was how pleasure for them was actually owning up their sexuality, exploring their sexuality. So therefore, I think that the definition of pleasure is very expansive, and we just create our own scripts for it. So yeah, that's pleasure, I guess.
Yeah. And why does pleasure matter in comprehensive sexuality education? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. I think just with pleasure, when we talk about pleasure, right, since it's such a self-journey, that when we talk about it, it helps us to know our bodies. And there's just so much of shame and guilt that surrounds conversations about our bodies and even learning about them. And I think one of the effective ways of oppression is also stigmatizing our pleasures and desires. So when we talk about pleasure, not only are we helping each of us to know more about our bodies, but we're also creating this resistance against the patriarchal society that keeps us away from our bodies. So it's really important to incorporate pleasure in CSE, because you give us tools to actually learn about our bodies, to resist patriarchal standards that has been set for us, but also to learn more about our boundaries. How can we communicate these boundaries about our consent? So I think overall, incorporating CSE is important because it creates a mindset to help us learn about our bodies more. So I think it's really crucial to take a pleasure-based approach when it comes to comprehensive sexuality education.
Yeah. Okay, and Sekulu, we're going back to you. I was wondering, how does that look for you in India?
Right.
How do you make this in practice in your work?
Right. I think with regards to the pleasure in itself, Anugya and I, though we are working with youths around the same age bracket, The difference is also that her community was more of the urban spaces, and my communities, since right now our campaign is particularly focusing on a small state called Nagaland, which is a conservative state. So then talking about pleasure is not just stigmatized, but people don't even know what pleasure means. Like when I say, what is pleasure to you? They might not really understand what I mean by it when I went with regards to SRHR or CSE. And like what Anugya mentioned, it's very universal in itself. So here our conversations has been starting from as simple as menstruation and as simple as what do you know about your body, or how many holes do you think we have down there, and what do you think vulva looks like? Something like, it starts from there. And then we delve deep into why do you think pleasure matters, especially with regard, and then connecting this, because a lot of times we also need to understand how certain factors could help our youths understand better because of the silence around it. So then we discuss about when you do not derive pleasure from anything at all, do you think that's pleasurable? So we ask such questions because anything that's not consensual cannot be regarded as pleasure. So then again, we go back to the conversation of, so what is pleasure to you, right? So these conversations have been tricky in itself, but like Anugya, it has been so profound, the whole experience, because we ask a question to the youths, and initially they might not be uncomfortable. They might be uncomfortable, but then it is so beautiful to see that we are all strangers, but then we come and then slowly we start sharing, and these stories have been such empowering experiences.
Yeah. Sekulu, thank you. Thank you so much. And Anugya as well. So we're running out of time. So we have to stop the conversation. But thank you both so much for your time. And if you want to know more about Anugya and Sekulu's work, awesome work, check out the Choice podcast, Young and Powerful with Choice for Youth and Sexuality, where you can dive deeper into their work. Now, next, let us present to you Tirza from Indonesia, Director of 2030 Youth Force Indonesia, a youth network in Asia Pacific that collectively works into well-being in life, advocating for youth and their rights and development. Tirza pre-recorded a video for us in which she talks about what motivates her to work on young people's rights in Indonesia, and what's her vision on youth rights and participation in Indonesia. Let's watch this video.
I think what motivates me to work for the rights of young people in Indonesia is because that I have witnessed a huge potential that young people can offer through my friends in 2030 Force Indonesia, and also through my friends that I met in a lot of forums. I see how they have been offering creative and innovative solutions, and I see how they are very excited and passionate to create changes within their own community. But on the other hand, there's still a lack of youth meaningful participation within decision-making process. There's a lot of still government officials who is reluctant to involve young people in the decision-making process because they think that we are not able and we are not capable to do it. I have heard this story where there's a young girl who were invited to a community discussion, and she was able to deliver her statement, but the statements were prescripted and written by adults. This means that she are not able to deliver her own aspiration and her own opinions. So I think there's still a lot of things to be done, especially in Indonesia, regarding youth meaningful participation and young people's right in expressing their opinions. In 2030 Youth Force Indonesia, we believe in the slogan, "There's nothing about youth without youth is for youth," and thus my vision is that all young people are able to be involved in decision-making process, especially those decisions that have a real and direct impact to young people. All here means, regardless of what their background is, their educations are, or what is their choice of sexuality, they all have the chance to take part in decision-making process. Also in the future, I want to see more collaborations between the government and young people to create changes, to create a better society, and to create a better Indonesia.
Well, there was a beautiful video of Tirza from Indonesia. Now let's welcome Rose, director of Right Here, Right Now Program 2. Hello, Rose. Thank you for being with us today. So the program, it's already the second program. Maybe you can tell us a bit about Right Here, Right Now 2 program, but first, how it started.
Yeah, we were lucky enough that we have a second round of funding for Right Here, Right Now. So the first program was mostly focused on advocacy and capacity strengthening for advocacy for sexual reproductive health and rights of young people. And then, we saw a lot of things. If you really want long-term change, it doesn't end after 5 years. So we still had a lot of unfinished agenda to do. So we worked on the second proposal for another 5 years. And happily we got it. So we can continue for another 5 years,
And I just made a little mistake. I told you, I said director, but actually you are the...
Program manager.
Yeah. So maybe you can tell a bit more about the program and why is SRHR so important to the program?
Well, the main change that the program wants to do is really promote and respect the sexual reproductive health and rights of young people in all their diversities. It's a huge program, huge partnership. We work with 7 consortium members, including Choice. And then we work in 10 countries with country coalitions. And they all work on their own change they want to see in their own country.
Maybe you can, for the viewers at home, maybe you can sum up some of the countries you're working with.
So it's 10 countries. So we have 3 countries in Asia. We have Nepal, and we also work in Indonesia and Bangladesh. And then we have 7 countries in Africa. So we work in Tunisia, Morocco, but also in Benin, in Burundi, in Uganda, and in Kenya, and Ethiopia. I'm always scared I forget one if it's in the list.
But it's quite a lot.
Yeah, it's a huge program. Yeah.
And what does meaningful youth participation mean, and why is it necessary for social change? For positive social change?
Yeah, well, young people at the forefront is a key value in our program. And I think for really sustainable change, you really need young people at the forefront.
Okay. And what are you most proud of within the program?
Well, if you look at the youth participation, we have a lot of, I think, diverse young people and organizations in the partnership. I think that's really a great added value and a good start of our program. So you have youth-led organization in each country coalition. So they're really embedded. And also each country coalition is working that young people really have a say in the country program, in the decision-making processes. I think there's still a lot of work to do, because it's not always easy. It's a youth-adult partnership. So, we still need to continuously look at how really young people can participate in the program. But I think that's something I'm really proud of. And you also see that kind of diversity of young people. So you see young people with different backgrounds. You see LGBT young people. You see people with disabilities. And I think that's something that makes Right Here, Right Now too quite unique. That we really want to make sure marginalized young people's voices are out there.
And last, what are your hopes for the Right Here, Right Now program?
The hopes. Well, we've seen all the plans of each country that they wanna, which change they wanna see. And it's amazing to see actually all their ambitions at country level. It changes from, well, they want to really make sure, for example, comprehensive sexuality education is really included in government policies and legislation, that there's really attention for LGBT youth in comprehensive sexuality education, that there's attention for pleasure, for gender, for feminism in sexuality education. So if each plan of the coming 5 years comes through, that would be my biggest dream. Yeah.
And then the last question, how do you meaningfully involve young people in the program?
As I mentioned earlier, we really continuously look at how young people can really participate in the program, and it needs continuous attention. But what I think what makes it also quite unique is that within Right Here, Right Now, we have a very strong progressive youth voice. And you see it with Choice at the international level to really make sure we talk about abortion, we talk about comprehensive sexuality education, we talk about LGBT rights. And these are very sensitive topics, especially at country level. It's not without any risks. And I think that makes it really unique, that progressive, strong youth voice are coming to the forefront. And I don't think many programs dare to do that. Yeah.
Okay. And maybe can you tell us only what makes Right Here, Right Now so important for international development? Because we talked about country level, but maybe you can tell us a bit more about what it means for international development.
Well, if you look at international development, there's a lot of funding going to infrastructural projects, and there's not a lot of funding going to health, not a lot of funding going to education. But what really makes the program unique is that there's finally funding for human rights, for advocacy, for really civil society. And I think that's really important if you look at international development, that really there's money available to really do the human rights work. And that's underfunded, unfortunately. So then I'm really happy with Right Here, Right Now that you can really, boost this progressive youth voice, and to really make sure that's part of international development and not the mainstream kind of work.
So it turns out really well that there's a second program actually right now available for the upcoming 5 years.
4 years left.
4 years left already. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Rose, for your time. Thank you.
Okay.
Up next, we wanted to know what inspires you, what drives you, how you viewed sexuality and pleasure, and what visions you had about youth. So we asked people, gathered their opinions, and came up with the "What's Your View on" video. Let's watch.
When I was in school, sex education wasn't that good because a great deal of students would laugh and make fun of each other whenever they heard something about genitals.
I remember once in grade 9, our teacher asked who among us have masturbated. The class was dead silent and we were all giving each other confused looks, except for one guy who laughed, and my teacher was like, he knows the meaning of masturbation, and he made the student explain what masturbation was, and that is how all of us learned about masturbation.
I remember having so many questions and not being sure what it is, but eventually I got to understand, but I don't remember how or when, but I'm pretty sure the society, my parents or the teachers I had, didn't have any contribution for it. Something that can be considered as a sexual education was in our ethics classes. We used to see videos of abortion, how they would try and help abort a baby, and it was made in a way that would make us very fearful, and the idea was that we won't have sex because sex leads to pregnancy, and pregnancy leads to that kind of abortion, which was very terrifying in my mind.
Enjoying sex with someone I love. I think and I know that sexual pleasure is the satisfaction one derives from sexual acts or erotic experiences or intimate experiences, yes. So the satisfaction one derives from it is what I define as sexual pleasure.
What I'd want to say is that what might be wrong for you might not be wrong for others, and what might be wrong for others might not be wrong for you. So try not to judge others, no matter what path they chose for themselves and what sexuality they chose for themselves. And try to embrace yourself as you are and spread love and stay safe.
to learn a lot of languages, to build up their confidence by interaction with their peers, not spending their days, on the mobile phone or social media in general.
And I will also tell myself to explore more, to travel more, to not be fearful as much as possible, and I think connect with a lot of young people from different parts of the world.
Take risks. Be brave to take risks.
You need to follow your dreams. Dreams do come true.
Now let's welcome Gemma, coordinator of the Power to Youth program. Hello, Gemma.
Hello.
Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
Maybe you can start with introducing yourself and the Power to Youth program.
Yes, so hi, I'm Gemma. I work for AMREF, Health Africa, and I used to be the coordinator of the Power to Youth program, but I transferred that task to a wonderful new woman called Ruth. So she's the coordinator now, but I am still leading the program on behalf of AMREF. And Power to Youth, yes, Power to Youth. So this is actually a very exciting program about, the name says it all, empowering young people. We work in 7 countries, in Indonesia, Ghana, Senegal, Kenya, Uganda, Malawi, and Ethiopia. But also on an African regional, on a global level. And we really focus on young people leading the change that they want. Identifying what young people want, identifying also what strengths they need to speak out. And this especially focuses on harmful practices. So we really invest in change around gender-based violence, around access to contraceptives, but also child marriage, female genital mutilation. So these are really all issues related to sex, sexuality, identity around these topics.
Yeah, wow, that's quite a lot of topics you're coping with. And how did you actually start in the field of SRHR? Can you tell us a bit more?
Yeah, me personally. So in 2008, I lived for almost a year in Guatemala in Central America, where I worked as an intern for a women's organization. And that's where that really sparked my interest and my passion for this topic of SRHR. Because I really learned how essential things like sexual rights, making your own choices about how many children you want, saying no to sex or yes to sex when you want, and how essential that actually is to the lives and also the happiness of people. So that's what sparked me to move into this field.
Maybe can you tell us a bit more why programs like Power to Youth are key to international development?
I think for several reasons. On the one hand, because this is about really supporting young people, but also women and also men, to really create the change that they want. So I really think that this program focuses on how can you make sure that people really change and identify also that change. So I think that's really important. And on the other hand, also these programs are super important because they address the sensitive topics, the topics that nobody else wants to address. I think also Rose from Right Here, Right Now really said that, and I think in that sense we are really complementary. Issues like female genital mutilation, issues like child marriage are difficult to discuss, but we discuss them. And I think what's also really important is that why such programs are super important is because this is really about a partnership. This is really about 5 organizations, AMREF, Choice, Rutgers, Sonke Gender Justice and Kids, who came together and are all super strong in their own fields, but you cannot do it alone. And I think that's what really, together with all those 7 country alliances, which also includes all different kinds of organizations, I think the partnership is really what counts.
Yeah, beautifully said. Like actually creating a dialogue. That's actually what you're...
Yeah, definitely.
So, and maybe you can tell a bit more about the youth-adult partnerships. What do they do?
Yeah, so youth-adult partnership, I think it's something we talk about a lot. So this is really about young people within organizations, youth-led organizations, but also adult-led organizations working together. That's actually the dialogue that you talk about. And if you ask me, this is kind of the theory of the dialogue. But I think the most important thing is how are we bringing that in practice? How are we really doing that? And I think that's really learning by doing. And I think that's what I like about this partnership. That's what I like about Choice, but also about all the other organizations. That step by step we get further. Young people are more involved. Young people also take the floor. They are empowered. But it's not always easy, not for the young people, but also not always for the adults. So how can you really make that work? I think that's something that we learn, that we research also, and that we improve on step by step.
Yeah. Okay, and your last question. What is your biggest ambition with the Power to Youth program?
Yeah, so for that question, I want to give the example of Nice. Nice is actually a young girl. Or she used to be a young girl in Kenya in a very rural Maasai community that was supposed to undergo female genital mutilation, but she didn't. She made the decision not to, and she spoke out about it, and she also supported other girls around her, but also her community. She started a dialogue with community leaders, with community members, and she could not do that alone. It was not just Nice. Nice had a support system. She was supported by organizations who helped her to really stand up. And now Nice has grown from that small young girl in that community to actually an national in Kenya, an international famous woman who speaks out about the rights of women. And if you ask me about my ambition for Power to Youth, it's to have thousands of girls like Nice. Yeah. To have a whole movement of those girls and also men, actually boys, who speak out in their own local communities or on the national level, but who are empowered enough to really make that change. Yeah, that's my ambition.
Gemma, beautifully spoken. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, up next we have Mr. Iko. Mr. Iko is a spoken word artist from the UK, and especially for us, he recorded this video with his poem, Heart to Heart. It's a poem about love. Share the love, Michael.
I wish hearts could speak. Every third word is met by ego and complication, things that will make us lose sleep, no longer in each other's arms due to miscommunication, and pride will stop me from being real first. I just hope it doesn't get you too. Who are we entertaining? This is only for us two, the two of us, you and I and you. You shaped my view. You became my pupil, yet I am not your teacher. I pray we see the bigger picture. I saw everything through you. You became my lens, and the words, filters of which I could see through the world and question the sincerity of human beings. I wish hearts could speak. Can we not speak in love? Grow in love. Understand in love. But most importantly, love. For no other reason than because love is love. So lend me your ears and let me serenade you about your goodness. I'm begging you, just stay here. Your eyes are crystal clear. Memories trapped in glass that tell stories lips are too weak to carry. And maybe it hasn't been long enough. I know that's tough. I'm not trying to be nosy, I just want to know thee. Why fear when in love there is nothing we cannot face? And if I am who you say I are, then put me in my place. Wrap me in duvets of your love. I won't want to leave. And any wrongdoing will be appeased. Just please, wish the hearts to speak. Even if we don't see eye to eye, hearts can align and love can conquer. Only if we see problems as obstacles to make us stronger. Don't question how much longer. Just hold on eagerly and favor the journey. We won't wait forever. For better and for worse. Love me for better, and love me in worse. Love me when it's easy, and love me when it hurts. Heart speaking candor. If life brings us pain and confusion, I hope that death brings us love.
I hope that that brings us love. A beautiful poem by Mr. Eco, Heart to Heart. Thank you, Michael. And because love matters, let's now invite Michelle with us. Michelle is partnership coordinator at Digital Communities with RNW Media. Via Digital Communities, RNW and Michelle help to reach young people about sexual reproductive health. Maybe you've heard about cool initiatives as Love Matters. Michelle, welcome.
Thank you.
So maybe you can start with telling us, what are digital communities?
Yeah, so actually digital communities are not that much different from normal communities. They're basically a place where people come together. They talk about something that they find important. They interact with each other based on content that focus on a certain purpose where people feel that they can benefit from. And digital communities are basically the same, but then online. So for example, on Facebook or Instagram, WhatsApp.
Yeah. And how are digital communities relevant when working with young people on SRHR?
Yeah, so digital communities, they can provide a space for young people to get access to SRHR information and education. So it can provide innovative ways to give sexuality education, for example, with gamification or blogs, podcasts, all kinds of ways to provide that information. And it's also important to create that space where young people come together to interact on sexuality issues. So when they, for example, don't feel safe in the classroom to ask questions about their sexuality, they also have the online space to ask those questions and to come together.
Yeah, and maybe you can tell us a bit about the range of people that participate in these communities. Can you maybe give an example, like how many people actually volunteer?
Yeah, so for example, like what you just said about Love Matters, that is kind of our flagship program on SRHR. So we work in many different countries across the world on sexuality education. And because it's online, we can reach a very large amount of young people globally. So last year, over 30 million young people interacted with our content.
Wow.
So yeah,
that's a lot. That's huge. A lot. And how is it for you? I mean, maybe you can tell us a bit more about RNW Media. Like, what is the media NGO like? Can you tell us a bit more, or the viewers at home, about your organization?
Yeah. So it used to be a broadcast organization, but now we're focused on online media for young people. So we still work with young media makers who provide the content themselves on these different platforms. And we ensure that these platforms are kind of safe to contribute. So we moderate the communities as well. The young people themselves in the countries constantly work very hard online to ensure that the conversations remain respectful. So that when unrespectful comments are posted, that they either ask why, or if they're really hateful, they also delete them. And that kind of provides that space for young people to feel safe.
Beautiful, beautiful. It's really, beautiful initiative. And what's the impact that digital communities have from your media experience?
As I said, first of all, I think, yes, providing that information, I think is really important, can make a lot of impact, as we saw like over the past 1.5 years with COVID. I think the online space can really provide that alternative space for young people to access information that they need, and give that feeling of belonging to a certain community. And I think also having such a huge reach also leads to a lot of data that we can retrieve from those online communities. And that data can also be used to inform new content creation, can be used to do certain advocacy activities with. So there's a lot that we can do with those online communities.
Yeah, wow. And the last question, what are your hopes for the program for the RNW digital community. So you've reached already 30 million people. What is your goal?
Of course, to reach even more young people, and with the Righty Right Now 2 program as well, that we now work with Choice with and with Rutgers. We aim to reach even more young people who are not yet so familiar with their sexuality education online. Scale our approaches and make sure that we can make more impact with young people.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
So, what a lovely interview with Michelle. And it's so nice that we can reach communities and people online too. As such, we have asked many young people to create a connected video. In the past, we would meet in person, but today we do that digitally. We've loved interviewing you, receiving words and opinions, and hearing about stories from your countries. We've loved connecting with you. And in order to celebrate us, to celebrate you, we've created a special poem, gathering everyone. Even from far away, we can make wonders happen together. Let's watch.
Nous sommes
young people.
Connected we are.
As young people,
We have the power
To make.
to create.
tous les jeunes
Have the power
To make
decisions. To be able to.
make decisions
by themselves. By ourselves.
with dignity.
Respect.
To make decisions
About our sexuality.
About me. About our sexual and reproductive health. And rights. And love lives. Love. L'amour.
We,
All young people.
worldwide.
Tous les jeunes du monde. We should be able to explore our love lives.
Notre sexualité. Nos histoires d'amour.
De façon saine, agréable.
Et en toute sécurité. We choose.
a choice.
We choose to connect together.
We choose what happens.
In our lives.
On se soutient.
Each other.
Together. Ensemble. To become youth leaders and change makers in our communities.
Pour notre futur,
We strongly
Believe in
ourselves.
today
Aujourd'hui.
and tomorrow. That we
are able
create a change for our loved ones.
For ourselves. For me. For me.
for you
Ensemble. Connected.
in our youth universe. As we have.
Le choix.
What a beautiful and inspiring poem from all over the world. Thank you so much for traveling with us to the Youth Universe. We hope it was an inspiring journey. And if you missed this, please check it out on the Choice website, choiceforyouth.org. It was a pleasure to be your host, and thank you so much for watching. And soon, hopefully to see you soon with new adventures. Take care.
Welcome back on our Choice spaceship, flying through the Youth Universe. We visited together Planet Shawishi to inspire. Unganisha Kutenda, where we connected to act. We flourished on Sepa New Year and learned about pleasure on Kesenangan. Let's now get back to Earth and evaluate all we have experienced. Thank you for connecting with us